And we are recording with Miss Leigh Dundas on Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 at 4:06 p.m. Eastern Time. As I was just telling Miss Dundas, I've had this boom stand for about 4 years. I have another one that I've had for a couple months, and it broke last night simply by taking it and moving it. And so now there's like this is not important and it's not pertinent to this podcast, but I'm just going to say it because it's on my mind. There's like a metal band, like a thin strip that I guess is the equivalent of like the spine. And that popped off last night while playing video games. It made a loud bang. So now, as I just grabbed it and moved it in the way I always do, I'm kind of, I don't
Oh,
know.
gun shy.
I'm a
Well, gun
little
shy.
hesitant. And if this company sponsored me, I wouldn't be saying this, but they don't. So whatever. It's Gator Frameworks. Don't trust it. And with that, Miss Dundas,
Well,
please introduce yourself. And guys, if you go into the description, you can find a link to her Twitter as well as her book, Just Stand Up, talking about exposing really child sex, child brothels, and all that good stuff. Not good stuff. Your book is good stuff. All that bad, evil, demonic stuff. Miss Dundas, please introduce yourself.
yeah, well, I'm a human rights attorney. Been litigating 30 years here in California, but on and off. A majority of that time was in when I was young and dumb, and I represented large corporations that were, some of them were polluting the planet, and I'm kind of a save the whale, hug the tree kind of
Yeah.
girl. So it was a little bit of a rough go because I'm like, oh, you're a pesticide manufacturer, okay, or oh, you polluted groundwater out in the valley, yeah, and not the pesticide guy, different company, but
Yeah.
it just left me with like what am
Eats
I
at your
doing?
soul.
Exactly, exactly. So, eventually I decided I wanted to be a parent. I didn't want my child to think I was, like a long lost relative because women in law firms work like 3,000 hours a year. And so I briefly took a pause, helped my husband with his business. He's a holistic health practitioner. And then in 2013, we sold our business and moved to Australia and Southeast Asia for a little while with our 8-year-old in tow. And I got bored right away because I'd never not worked. And I reached out to some anti sex slavery nonprofits in that side of the world. And they were like, let me get this straight. You're a white lady from Orange County, soccer mom type, and you want to fight the brothel industry. Click. And, but I'm persistent. I do have that for better or for worse. And
Yeah.
so after a million phone calls, somebody finally called me back. It was a 714 number, which is my backyard here. And I was reaching out to Asian and Australian anti-sex slavery nonprofits. So it was very weird that on my New Zealand cell phones, a 714 number was coming through that wasn't like my mother, right? And it was a guy who had adopted 2 Vietnamese orphans, felt bad they couldn't adopt more, opened up some orphanages over there. They ran restaurants here in Cali. And he's like, yeah, I'm taking some friends from church. They have an anti sex slavery nonprofit. We're starting to see human trafficking in some of the victims that come through our orphanages. And we're going to have a meeting with the Vietnamese government on the 23rd of the month. You're welcome to come if you'd like. And I was like, dude, I could be like Ted
Yeah.
Bundy and an axe murderer. They don't know me, but
Yeah.
if they're willing to have me, I'll go. And I fell in love with the work and never looked back and lived in Asia part time, fighting the brothels and rolling with the Navy SEALs to get the brothels taken out.
That's pretty hardcore. Yeah, if they don't know you, they don't know anything about you. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know why I just got this imagery in my head of like being in like a World War II battlefield and finding like another soldier and being like, dude, you got my back. And it's like, that might be a German guy wearing an American uniform, but it's like, yeah, but if you look around, man, what other option do you have? It might be like
Right.
we're fighting the most evil thing on the planet. She might be an axe murderer. That's a variable we'll have to take into consideration, but no one else is volunteering, especially like an attorney. It's like no one else is volunteering that. So
Right.
that's a good point. I've kind of stumbled into interviews with like multiple different organizations fighting human trafficking, including like hardcore former tier 1
Yeah.
CIA like
Yeah.
black ops guys that are just doing this stuff, and
Yeah.
it's it's the same thing as, well, you actively went looking for it. I kind of don't know how it's fell into my lap, but whenever I get like an interview like this, I always take it because in my mind, I'm like, I think there's like an Excel sheet somewhere up in heaven where they're just tallying karma. And I'm like, I got a podcast. I do it every day.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, just throw it in there. It's good. You're doing the right. It's like recycling. It's like putting a penny in savings. I'm like, just do it. I never turn them down. I'm always just,
Good.
some episodes I turn down, but these ones I'm always like, yeah, you should just do it. It's probably the right thing. So
We got to get the word out. So, and it's people like you who can reach the masses. So we rely on you, and you're doing God's work when you're shining a light into the dark places. So it's a good call.
Well, it also helps because it helps legitimize it. And I
Yeah.
mean that by so many people, and I don't mean and people are writing it off as like a QAnon thing. Not even that. I think it's just it's so out. I mean, as someone that grew up in a suburban neighborhood, went to a private Catholic school, I know from at least my living in my existence, like, crime exists. Like, I grew up in suburban Atlanta. I mean, like, way out there. But every morning on the way to school, in like fifth grade, you'd listen to the radio and it'd be like 10 shot in Buckhead or something. So I always knew crime existed. I grew
Yeah.
up, I was 11 when 9/11 happened. So he was aware of war. Those are all things that you kind of accept as like, we're lucky, be thankful,
Yeah.
but a lot of the world is hell. It's like, okay.
Yeah. It's
When
true.
you hear about child trafficking in a cozy suburb, there is a little, and I'm 33, and I would say I probably didn't actually start to accept this and internalize it till about 3 years ago. So my point of saying all of this is it's also important to do these shows and have multiple different organizations. So when it does come up in just like a random conversation, I can be like, it's not QAnon stuff, man.
Right.
I've interviewed the people that do, and then it also
Yeah.
helps when it's like, and it's not just suburban soccer moms. I'm like, it's hardcore
Yeah.
former Delta Force guys. Like, it's as
Exactly.
real as it gets.
It is. It's a real
So
problem, huge problem.
yeah,
And there's a lot of good people from church going grandmas to former Navy SEAL guys who are fighting the good fight. The ones here in America are going out and handing out goodie bags with, the trafficking phone number on it and organizations who can help to the girls on the streets here. And then you get the former special operator guys who are retired out at, 45, and they're bored and they want to
yeah,
change the world for the better, and they know
yeah,
how to handle themselves, and they're rolling into towns like the ones I work in Asia that are no man's lands. But yeah, it takes a village on this stuff
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. It's kind of like what you said. You're like, I've never not worked, and
Yeah.
that's me to a T. I can't take
Right.
days off. I'm like, what do I do? It's just thinking like, yeah,
Yeah.
no wonder it makes sense the former like tier one guys do it.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you don't talk about high achievers. You and I are like,
Yeah.
I've never not. These are guys that eat and breathe adrenaline, and they finish, and they're
Yeah.
like, now what? Like, I don't know what to
Exactly.
do. Um,
Right.
so just for the average person right off the bat, what is something that the average person can? I have a podcast. I'm in a kind of a unique situation. This isn't the most normal job. I have a little bit of a megaphone. I can have people on. For the average person that is not a Navy SEAL and who's maybe just listening to this podcast in their car on the way to a
Yeah.
job, a cubicle, what can the average person do?
Well, you can't handle a problem if you don't know about it. So really, as basic as it sounds, as trite as it sounds, awareness is key. If you don't know that sex trafficking happens in your town, you need to know that. And a lot of us, it's the human nature to not want to look at evil, admit it exists in your midst. But if you're in a town in America, small or large, and you've got a motel or a hotel in that town, you probably have trafficking going on, or you have had it at some points in time, because the hotels and motels are the new brothels. There's no red light districts anymore with the red light outside on the porch. The travel lodges, the Motel 6s, the Super 8s, the one-off lower brow ones, those are where the modern day pimps go, and they rent a room for $40 or whatever, and they shove 7, 8, 10 girls in a room, and they run ads, and they wait for your husband, your soccer coach, your pastor, your accountant to have a night at home where his wife is off in Chicago for a work conference, and he sends the little kiddos down the street for a slumber party, and he gets bored and he orders up a pizza, and he looks at some Craigslist and Backpage ads. They've done away with Backpage now, but something like it. And he goes, yeah, in addition to a Domino's pizza with pepperoni, I'm going to get a girl or a boy or whatever I want.
Mm,
And he either goes to the hotel, or the pimp drives one of the girls in the travel lodge room down to his house for the hour, and he gets what he wants. But a lot of people don't know that it's literally going on under their nose. It is the second largest, fastest growing crime in the world. Right now, it's the only one in front of it is drugs, and it's set to take out drugs for the top spot in the next couple of years, if not sooner, because there's a lot more profit in selling a 7-year-old to a sex buyer than there is in selling cocaine to an addict. If you come to me, right, it's Tommy, right? That's your
Yeah.
name. I'm just having, okay, that's what I thought. I'm like, back to our conversation about the doctor prefix
Yeah,
before
yeah,
the
no,
show.
I don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah.
I don't care.
But you know, if Tommy comes to me hypothetically, and I'm sure Tommy's not a cokehead and I'm not a dealer, but if we were, and he goes, "Hey man, I want to buy some blow tonight," and I sell him $100 of coke, and he likes it, and he comes back to me tomorrow night, in the intervening 24 hours, I've had to take, I don't know, 30 bucks of the 100 he gave me and go back to my supplier and get more coke to sell more coke. But that is not the case with a human being. I sell you a 7-year-old, you like the 7-year-old, you come back to me tomorrow night, you want more 7-year-old. I don't need to go buy another girl
Yeah.
to sell you more girl. I rent her over and over until she dies. And the only hard cost is the Happy Meal a day or the cup of rice a day if you're in Asia that it takes to keep her alive. And maybe if you're in America, a hotel room. If you're in Asia, it's a Quonset hut. You have no lodging costs. So it's a 90+% profit margin, and every small time gangbanger from the ones in Watts and Compton out here all the way to the Japanese mafias have figured out there's a heck of a lot more money, profit to be specific, in selling a human than there is in selling drugs or weapons. So that's what they do now.
And there's like when I first found out about it, there was this like general kind of shock that I don't know how to word it. You almost kind of find solace in unconsciously. This is going to be hard to word, but you look at it and you go, "This is so evil. How could this happen? How can a human do this?" And you kind of just sit in that pool of just like, "This is so fucked up."
Mm-hmm.
And then that's kind of where you stay. And it's a natural reaction. But now that I'm like, now that I look back at it, and this is something I've sort of realized over the years, is it's almost it's a comforting Novocaine to just sit there and go, it's like looking at something and saying the problem's so big I can't fix it. That's what am I gonna do? I'm Tommy. I can't. In a way, you're bitching out, right? So
You
even
can, you can.
yeah, so even now I'm sort of having I just had to catch myself. I was just going, this is so evil. And I'm like, okay, enough of that. Yes, it is evil. Shut up.
Yeah, and
What?
there's so many ways to get involved. I mean, you're
Yeah,
exactly right. And people have, and that's a natural human reaction. I mean, I've had it. You know,
yeah.
we took GoPro footage off a Japanese sex tourist who'd raped 2 7-year-olds, and I had to review it. And I mean, you just sort of sit there in stunned horror for
Was
minutes,
he wearing
hours.
a GoPro?
Yep, yep,
So
yep.
it's just okay. I have to stop doing the shock thing. Let's just
Yeah.
so what is that? Is that just to increase profit even more because you can use them and then you can now also you can sell CP, or is that
A
for his
lot of
own
these
use?
a lot of these guys just like to relive their moments,
Got it.
but there's also a fair bit of profit to be had in live streaming, videoing, reselling, sex acts. So I don't really know. I just know that when they busted him, we ended up with the GoPro footage. And you do. I mean, and it was really hard for me. I was alone in a hotel room in Bangkok, and our guys had given me the stuff on Friday and said, go look at it. And it was, but he didn't tell me what it was. And it was like my soul knew that it was going to be really dark because I procrastinated. I didn't look at it Friday or Saturday or Sunday. Finally, like Sunday night late, and there's a 15-hour time difference. So I was living in Thailand 2 weeks, and then I was back home in Orange County 2 weeks. I was going back and forth, but I had an 8-year-old, so I would Skype her every night and morning because that's the only times you can catch the person. So I had just gotten done Skype. Well, no, which way did I do it in? I know it. So I put the GoPro footage in to review it and saw this guy first person view, right, doing his awful crimes with these 7-year-olds. And I was just horrified. And then room service showed up. So I've got my laptop up. It looks like I'm viewing
Looks like
porn.
that's what I was
I'm
gonna get
not.
to is
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And and you're just so immersed in it and just paralyzed with whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I like slam my laptop down, go get room service, finish reviewing it, go get sick in the bathroom. And then my daughter calls to say, good morning. I'm getting ready to go to bed. And I'll never forget, my husband had sat down on bed with her and they'd lean back on the pillow to talk to me. And he
And
had his arm behind her head. And he happened to be in one of the
Yeah,
positions
that's what I was
with
gonna.
my daughter that I had just
And you're
seen.
watching it through a screen.
And I'm like, I talk about being just swimming around in a cesspool and not knowing what to do with yourself emotionally. But you get through it.
Yeah,
You get through it no matter how horrifying it is, and you're not doing any good to anybody by being paralyzed forever.
yeah,
But you're also not doing any good to yourself by not feeling. So you walk a fine line between I'm just going to be a robot about this, and no, that's not the handle, and oh my gosh, I'm so unnerved by what I saw, I'm going to cry for 15 years about it, also not
yeah.
a handle. And you find a middle road and you say, what can I do to help? And so many people come to me, Tommy, and they're like, I'm an accountant and I have 8 kids. I'm not going to go roll with Navy SEALs into brothels like you did, Leigh. What can I do? And I'm like, you know what you can do? You can research a good sex trafficking nonprofit in your neighborhood, vet them out, make sure they're doing good work and they're on the up and up, and then offer to do their taxes for free because you're going to save them a few grand a year that
Sure.
they can then use to put back into the fight.
Yeah,
Or you're a graphic designer, or you've got a podcast, or you're organizing awareness days at your church. There's so many ways that you can use your unique gift or profession to aid these nonprofits, even though it's maybe not the first thing that came to mind. Not everybody's a Navy SEAL. You don't need to be a Navy SEAL. You can just donate stuff, time, money, resources, skills, and you can help.
I never thought. I feel kind of stupid. I never thought about that. I figured it was like you're Navy SEAL, you're a philanthropist. Hey, you could also just do the taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, or even just something
Oh,
simple like what do you need? Like you need to print these things. I'll pick up the
yeah.
bill. Just
Yeah.
simple
You own
shit.
a print shop. You own, whatever.
Restaurant, just be like, I'll cater you guys like once a week.
Yes. Yeah. Or you can hold a fundraiser, your next annual fundraiser. I'll
That's a
freebie
good
the
point.
food to you. I mean, even a body shop, right? My family owns body shops. And it's like, dude, I guarantee you the founder of the nonprofit who's doing that is not rolling in the dough. And if he is, he's not doing it right.
Yeah,
So, he gets in a car wreck, help him out a little, like
yeah,
help him out. The money that he's not having to pay you to do X, Y, or Z that he would normally pay for, that's money he can roll back into the fight.
that's a good point. I haven't even thought about it. And you read my mind on twice of those. I was gonna say, one, how do you even view that stuff without yourself worrying about being incriminated? That'd be like if someone was like, Tom, you need to view this. We got to do something about it. And I look at it and all of a sudden I'm entrapped by the FBI for watching CP. And I'm like, wait, no, I don't. What? Like, but then second, I was going to say, yeah, as soon as you said you Skype with your daughter, I was like, that's exactly what it is. You're looking through a screen. And then I didn't realize the husband, but yeah, that's gotta mess you up. But it is also the importance of growing some tolerance to it. You don't want to be a psychopath and feel nothing, but it's
Mhm.
like surgeons. Like you can't be, oh, whoa, you want a surgeon that is just looking at you like an engine. They don't, oh my God, is Tommy gonna survive? I don't want that guy. I don't
Yeah.
want that. I want the guy I'm his
All
11,000th
biz.
surgery. Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing? Cut it open, cardiothoracic surgery, but nurse need that's the
Yeah.
guy I want that
Yeah.
isn't just whatever. I'm just a puzzle piece. You
Right.
do want that.
Yeah. So,
God, how do you?
yeah.
All right. Well, that's so. And I think that is so much of the hurdle is just getting people to realize that it happens. Is there any like, because I have such a small podcast, is there any like ticker or daily update? It'd be a pretty horrific thing, but is there anywhere anyone can go? Because that is such a large hurdle, is for people to even acknowledge that it's happening. Even when I hear sex trafficking, I think, oh, shipping container at like it's at night and it's like a rainy ocean port in Vietnam or somewhere and it's in South America in some hut in the jungle. And I still have to bring myself back. I'm like, no, I'm looking at the skyline right now.
Yeah.
I would imagine in one of those buildings in the last year it's happened.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're in a major metro area like Atlanta, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happening under our noses. And if you have a little more, if you're more on the Navy SEAL side and less on the bite your nails down to the quick watching a scary movie side, there's plenty of organizations in most of the major cities now. A lot of them are faith-based that you can hook up with, and they go out on Friday and Saturday nights into the the tracks, where the girls are still actually walking the street, and they may not be all underage. They may be, varying ages, but you're getting word out there. You're praying with them. You're explaining they're not chattel. You're explaining if they get tired of the life, that this organization that you're with can help them find a way out. And that is how many girls get rescued. And it's simple men and women and moms and dads and college kids and grandpas who are retired from the post office who are out there doing the work. And it's gratifying work. I remember one time when my daughter was she was 8, she was in 3rd grade, and I was just getting into the doing this stuff. And we were in Asia, and I'd met a pastor, and Finnish guy, blonder than you and me, by way of Australia, but he'd been living in Thailand doing his ministry work for over a decade, I think, at that point. And he said, you need to go down to the south with me, to the deep south. There's 140 child brothels and nothing else, and we're doing really good work down there, and I want you to see it, and I think you'd be an asset. And me, I'm game for anything. I'm like, all right. So I'm talking to my husband later that night, and he goes, is it safe? Ex-military. And I go, well, I don't know. I mean, the pastor works down there all the time. He's still alive. Like, he goes, why don't you Google it? And I'm like, all right. So I go to the business office in the hotel in Bangkok I'm staying at, and I Google it, and nothing shows up on this town. It's a tiny little town, middle of nowhere. And I go to the Asian business office dude walks in, and I said, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you do a foreign language, like a Thai newspaper search in Thai for me to see if anything turns up? He goes, yeah, sure. Comes back 5 minutes later, and he goes, permission to speak freely? And I'm like, sure, that's why I asked for help. And then I'm like, that doesn't sound good, right?
Doesn't sound
And
good
he
at all.
goes, yeah, exactly. He goes, so I'm male, which is obvious, and I'm Thai, and I was born here, and I'm young and strapping and speak the language fluently. And I'm like, yeah, like all things I already had figured out. And he goes, and you couldn't pay me any amount of money to go where you're proposing to go. And I'm like, oh. And he goes, it is radical jihadi terror cell training country. It is controlled by radical jihadis who are just like the movies you see in the Mideast, where they're incubating their little suicide bombers and training them up to do that. That's what these cells are doing there. And they are at war with the Thai Buddhists. The radical Islamic jihadis are bombing the heck out of the Thai Buddhists, and bombs are going off every day. And you couldn't pay me, and I live here, and I'm a dude. And I'm like, wow. So I got cold feet. I am here to tell you, it's okay that you get cold feet sometimes and make the wrong decision even. And I forget if I called or I texted the pastor, and I'm like, hey, yeah, something came up. Won't be able to go to that town, that brothel town with you, like in 2 days. And I got home. It's a 30-hour flight, give or take. There's no direct flight from Thailand to LA. And I got home, and I'm putting my daughter to bed, and I'm reading her stories, and she falls asleep in my armpit, and I'm hearing her breathe, and I'm looking at her little pink ceiling, and I'm silently crying. And I'm like, you know what? Lawyers like me are a dime a dozen. There's a corporate lawyer on every corner. We are overpopulated in America with attorneys. But the number of people who are going there, like non-existent.
Yeah.
I am not living my highest and best life hiding out safe in Orange County like every other soccer mom. So I pulled my arm out from under my sleeping child, tiptoed down the hallway, grabbed my phone, texted the pastor, and said, I'm going to be back in a week, and I'll go. And we did. And it was hair raising. It's a 3-hour car ride once you land at this airport. And we're flying down the road. We rent a car, we get in the rental car. I mean, this is a little pastor. He's like 65 years old, like skinny, white, balding. And I'm like, dude, like I like speed. I race dirt bikes. Like I've gone 125 miles an hour in my own passenger car before, but it's been a while. I'm a soccer mom now. And I'm like, kind of feels like we're going a good maybe 120 in a rental car, like a 4-banger rental car. And I'm like, what the hey? But I thought, well, maybe I'm just jet lagged and it feels that way. I think the pastor could see the look on my face, and he looks over and he goes, you want me to explain? And I go,
I was
please.
gonna say there's got to be a reason for it.
Yeah. And he goes, you see the rubber trees off to the side of the road right there? Because it's very tropical.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, I see all the rubber trees. They're like,
Ambush.
yeah. And he goes, the way it works is the bombers hide out behind a
Oh,
tree
ooh,
and they run the wire across the road and they wait for a good looking target car. And I said, oh, like a rental car full of white people, maybe, and pastors? And he goes, yeah, or military or cops, any of them will do, but we're at the top of their list.
yeah,
And then they remote detonate.
yeah.
And I go, oh, so you're just out running their trigger finger.
Yeah,
And he
ha.
goes, yep. And I go, keep it on the ground, floor it,
Let's
baby.
go, let's go, let's
Let's
go. What are you
go.
doing, 120? Crack this bitch
Yeah,
up. Let's
crank it,
roll.
baby. Yeah. And then 3 hours later, and every half hour, there's a checkpoint, military checkpoint, tax strips across the road, sawhorses, every
Hmm.
other. You're having to slow down and do this to get
Hmm.
all the way up to a watchtower. It looks like U2 all along the watchtower song. And you get these kids. I mean, you think at a distance in their camo and their military boots and their guns and their German Shepherd dogs. And you're like, oh, they're the military. And you pull up and they look younger than you. I mean,
Yeah.
there's like, they're like 18 at most, 16 probably more often, no facial hair. Half of them probably haven't even hit puberty. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And they're going under your car with a mirror. And I'm like,
Hmm.
wait a second, they think we're the bomber? And he
Yeah.
goes, they don't know. So every car gets checked. And I'm like, that's flipping fantastic. And then 3 hours later, you arrive at the brothel town, you exhale, and then you look at the brothel and go, oh, well, that's where I'm staying tonight because there are no hotels in this town. So yeah, it's fun times.
So what happens when you get there? When you get to the brothel town?
Well, first of all, you're staying in a brothel with the girls. You walk in. The one we stayed at, it was sort of like Dante's whatever, like 7 levels of.
9 layers
So
of hell.
yeah, exactly. So the higher the floor, the better we are. So the pastor knows the drill, and he requests 2 rooms on the top floor,
Why is
and as
that?
because the perversion gets worse the lower you go, and there's a nightclub on the bottom, which is very loud as well.
Okay.
So you're insulated from the sound and from the overt weirdness of the sex industry, the higher the floor. And then you check in and you come out into the hallway. I'm like, okay, I'll drop my bags and I'll see you in the lobby in 15. You go out into the hallway and there's all these Asian men with their hands standing in the door jamb and they're leaning back and they're shooting and they're shooting the shit and they've got their cigarettes and they got 1 or 2 12-year-old girls tucked in their armpit and they're talking to their buddy across all. It looks like a frat house, except they've got underage women in their rooms. And that's the deal. And that's the good floor. That's the floor without super crazy stuff going on. And then you go out into the alleyways and they're dirt alleys. And if you've ever been to, like, I don't know how Atlanta is, but in LA, in downtown LA, there's a garment district and there's like an auto body district and you have those roll up metal gates,
Yeah,
on the
yeah, yeah,
front of,
yeah.
like, so there's a dirt alley with these roll up metal gates, and around 4 or 5 at night the gates go up and you see in the background underneath the gate is a little brothel. And the girls start coming out and there's glass windows and it looks like a karaoke bar.
Jeez.
And it is a karaoke bar, but you go in there and there's a few booths, maybe. Sometimes there's just card tables with cheesy plastic lawn chairs.
Yeah.
And it's Islamic music, and it's got the bouncing karaoke thing, but it's very
Uh-huh.
Middle Eastern, the wailing, the yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the
yeah,
ISIS
yeah,
videos or something.
yeah, belly dancing kind of music. My
Yeah.
mother, my mother taught belly dancing growing up, so it was weird. I walked into a brothel and I'm like, I feel like I'm 5 years old at a belly dancing festival again. But
Start uncovering some suppressed trauma. You're like, wait,
right, I'm
it's
like,
like some
wait,
like Jason Bourne shit. You're like,
right,
what
world,
happened? Yeah.
yeah. Why am I thinking of my mommy right
Hey,
now?
yeah, yeah.
Right?
What that's a Rorschach test. Yeah, I walked into the brothel town surrounded by terrorists, and I thought, Mom,
Mom,
you need to talk to her again and be like, what
but
happened?
but it is, right? You know how they say sound and
Yeah.
music and smell are the quickest
Oh
ways to
yeah,
pull a
yeah.
memory,
Smell is the biggest. Yeah.
the biggest. So there you are, and the girls start coming out, and you see these Asian men, and they walk in and they order a beer, and they'll order a burger and some fries, and then they'll say, I want number 12. And when they're done eating their burger and fries and singing their karaoke, maybe they go into the back room with number 12 and they do their deed. And that is how it rolls in this brothel town. And the girl that you see behind me here, whose face is all blurred out, the pastor, the very first night, one of the first nights we were in town, cut a deal with the mama san. And as long as he kept buying us drinks, water and Pepsi and then a beer for her, the mama-san would not make her work. So she gets up a few hours into our chat
Oh
and
yeah.
goes to the bathroom, and he leans over and he goes, "Do you want me to explain?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, when she comes back, look closely at the orbit around her eye socket right here, and you'll see it's not eyeshadow. You'll see a bluish purpley tinge. The Asian sex buying clientele here in the deep south of Thailand, they like the body to look like a Laotian prepubescent girl, but they want the breasts and a different nose. So on their way from Laos, where they grew up and their parents sold them to the brothel, into town, these traffickers will divert and they'll get them a real quick nose job and a boob job, to make them more appealing to the buyers. And so she comes back and she realized what he had been talking about, and she lifts up her nose, Tommy, and she's got what looks like dental floss in her nose. Her nose was still fully packed with gauze, and she was out on the floor working. Can you imagine? I mean, maybe as
No.
a guy you can't. That is a death sentence, to try to service a John when you cannot breathe through your nose. Like,
Yeah.
hello.
Yeah. That's
So
basic anatomy. Yeah. It's
yeah, so the pastor was really doing her a good turn by getting her off the floor that night. And we asked her, I said, "How'd you end up here?" And she's like, "Well, my dad died in a farming accident, and my mother was so poor that we were all going to starve. So here I am." But that's how it rolls over there.
one of my favorite books is called Base Nation by David Vine. He's a professor, I think, at Georgetown or something. But it's a great book about the US military bases around the world, and kind of just because it is something we don't really think about. If China
Yep.
put a base in Cuba, we'd all freak out. But we don't think about how we're surrounded. We're in Germany, Japan. It's
Right.
whatever. That's a whole. Not getting into that, just what it is. But one of the things, there's a whole chapter on how it fuels the sex
Trafficking.
trade, and
Yep.
specifically Southeast Asia. Yeah, no, that just made me remember. Yeah, in the book they go in, and yeah, the mama-san, and if you go by, I think they call them like juicy girls or juicy drinks, where it's like technically near U.S. bases, the U.S. said it was illegal to sell women, but you can sell juicy drinks, and what a juicy drink is like a $50 drink, and you're
Right.
not paying for the drink, you're paying for the girl.
Yeah.
And but yeah, no, if the girl sells drinks, then
Yeah.
she doesn't have to work. And that is how sometimes they would just find. I think in the book that there's like one Marine who's like, I just felt so bad. So he's like, I would just go to the bar and just like buy her drinks or something so she didn't have to work.
Right. So she
And
didn't have to work.
you're just like, fuck.
Yeah, it is a rough go in these
Yeah.
places. And I mean, heads up to America. The communists said they had 45 goals. They were read into an open congressional record in our country in 1963, and the goals were very clear. It was to recognize China, which we officially do now, and permit trade amongst communist nations, take over one or both political parties, infiltrate the schools to use them as a transmission
Mm-hmm.
belt
Mm-hmm.
for the purveying of communist propaganda and socialist propaganda, and normalize sexual
The,
perversion,
long
increase
march through the
divorce.
institutions. Yeah. Or
Yeah,
was it
take over the
not
press.
Tolstoy? Who was Voltaire? Those that can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. Well, where are we
Atrocities.
now? That's a
That's
10
it.
years ago, it's like, that's a pedophile, get him away. And now it's like, oh, come read to my kids. You're
Yeah.
dressed up in pain. And if you're an adult man, yeah, you go do whatever you want. But it's
Right.
kind of odd when it's like, yeah, I'm transgender. I cut everything off. I had shit
Yeah.
stitched on him. Hey, more power to you, whatever you want. How
Right.
come you only want to read to kids?
Right.
How come you're
Exactly.
not going to like how come you're not going to like retirement homes?
Yes.
How come
Right.
you're not going to immigration centers and teaching people how to read? It's like, I just want to read. I'm like, that's fucking great.
Go
What?
to an immigration
That's like
center.
if I was like, hey man, I just want to do podcasts. And it was like, Tommy, you only interview people that do sex trafficking, and you always ask them to hold up the pictures of the girls. I kind of think you want the girls. It's a
Right. Right.
weird, but
It is.
not to go off the rails. No, but that's what it is
Oh,
believe
well, and
absurdities, you can commit atrocities.
atrocities, and that is 100% true. And back to your point about you know, sex has no business in school. It just doesn't.
No.
Kids are not sexual creatures at age 3. And I don't walk in my freaking stripper heels and lace negligee and be like, let's have story. Like,
Yeah. And
in
it's
what
not,
universe would that be okay? Why is it suddenly okay because a transgender person's
yeah.
there in his
And
lingerie?
the attack against people that don't like it are always like, you're a bigot. I'm like, dude, I don't no correct. I don't want them talking about homosexual sex. I don't want them talking about heterosexual sex.
Heterosexual
I
sex,
can't
like no
I
sex.
I think I like said the word sex in like third grade. I remember my older brothers like lied to me. We were watching some cartoon and they were like cha, just doing some dance like cha 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 whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, what does cha mean? And my brother was like, it means sex. And I was like, oh, and like I didn't know what that was. So like yeah, it was like I remember I was in like second or literally like 8 years old,
Yeah.
and like
Second,
some
third.
girl in the cafeteria saying like cha 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 cha, and I was like, oh, I'd like to have sex with you. And I just remember I went to like a private Catholic school.
Uh-oh.
God, I still remember my parents sitting me down and just like blacking out because I was just so scared and crying and getting yelled at. But the point
Oh,
is like that's how it was growing up. Is like no, it's
yeah.
not that you hate gay people. It's like you're a kid.
Yeah. You're a
None
kid.
of this.
Yeah, and kids shouldn't really know. I mean, you were confused. Cha means sex. Like that
Yeah.
is what goes on playgrounds. Is like people don't know about it and they're in fourth grade or second grade. And that's the beauty and the innocence of childhood.
Yes.
And we're ruining it by having men who look like strippers in stripper gear sitting down at drag queen story hour. And it's just wrong. And
And
again, nothing you do you in your bedroom. I don't want to know about it, and I don't want you in my bedroom. And that's the
sure,
way polite society should be. It just
sure.
is.
But and so the importance of bringing this up though
Yeah.
is it's when you look at I don't know, you see somebody doing like a I survived drug addiction talk and it even me like I remember I had a tonsil surgery in 2014 and I was on Vicodin for like a month. I'm very lucky in that I just don't like painkillers. They don't feel good to me. I think I'm probably like one in a trillion. I'm very
Yeah.
lucky. I just got the good genetics. I'm like, I don't need any. I don't like it. But 2014, my older brother also committed suicide. And so I was on clonazepam, like a heavy benzodiazepine for like
Whoa.
8 months and was just
Whoa.
got unbelievably addicted to it. Had no idea. And had to wean off of it. And my mom's a nurse. It's one of two drugs that and alcohol can the only two drugs that withdrawal can kill you from. And
Yeah.
now even like 10 years later, I always have to like keep it at bay. Like if I'm
Yeah.
having a real panic attack, sure you can take like a Xanax. But even now I'm like I can't have a prescription to it. I've been offered prescriptions. I'm always like no, because
Yeah.
I know what will happen. And then
Yeah.
you could look down the road and you start to look at it and you go, "Oh, it starts to humanize, someone you might see on the street. You go, well, maybe that guy was a 33-year-old with a podcaster and something happened. So he ends up on
Yeah.
Xanax and then he can't get a prescription. So he ends up on some street drug. And one thing after
Yeah.
another, you're on the street robbing people. But the point is bringing awareness to just how addictive it can be because that's the end goal. So the point of what we're saying about, you know, guys dressed as women teaching kids, the way I look at it is like I'm looking at and that's the benzo prescription where you're like, hey, well, some people need it. Okay, sure. But you have seen where this inevitably goes.
Yeah.
If we're just as we're creeping into the Overton window that grown men
Mhm.
can talk to kids. It's good that they do, and maybe they want to wear a bra while they do it, and maybe they want to bring the kids to a strip club, and maybe you have kids cheering as guys in thongs with their balls hanging out are dancing and you're watching it creep and you go, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But look how far we've moved in just 5 years, 2018 till now.
Right.
What does 2028 look like? What does
I know.
2033 look like? You always see an absurdity where it's like hashtag I stand with how long until it's in 2035 and it's like, listen, guys, age is a construct, love is love. I mean, you can see it now. You can see the politician at the podium going, if a grown man loves a 6-year-old, then that's okay. You can see everyone cheering. But this is
Yeah.
where it goes. So
Oh,
I
it
know I'm kind
is.
of going on a rant, but this is how I look at it. It's like the cancerous weed is just poking up. Don't wait for it to take over the garden. Take a
No.
blowtorch to it now.
Yeah.
I,
It is far easier to not give up ground and stamp out injustice when it first raises its ugly little head than to wait until you're upside down and far down the road on it. I mean, there's just no doubt. And yeah, minor attracted people, but this was, all of these things were part of the communist
yes.
goals,
Yes.
right? And the issue that I have is when you look at those 45 goals, they're more than half completed here in America.
Hmm.
And I, having lived and worked in communist countries, plus, being born into a military family and married into a military family, really don't want to think that my child is going to grow up in some third world banana republic communist dictatorship, which is where we're headed.
Hmm.
And if people think communism is great, I mean, if you right now there's a study out, a survey of youth, and something like 52 or 51% think it would be cool to live in like a socialist or communist country. You know what? I'll take you there. And
Yeah.
I guarantee you won't be thinking it's so cool when I get done with you, because you don't see people immigrating to North Korea and Cuba. You see people immigrating from there here, but nobody in their right mind leaves a first world country and goes, yeah, I'm going to go live in a brothel on the Thai Malaysia border or in North Korea. You don't want communism here. And where we are headed right now politically is getting drastically close to being a communist country with a thin veneer of like icing on the cake of American whatever left over
Yeah.
on top to fool the people. But we have to stamp it out where we see it, or we're going to be living in communism. And the way communism leaves you is that you're so poor you sell your children to brothels. And
Hmm.
nobody wants that. I don't even think the crazy deluded people in our society would say at this point that that's a good end.
Yeah. But it
That is where
doesn't,
we're
once you're at the end though, it doesn't
no.
matter. I told you so. It doesn't matter. When you're sharing a bunk with someone else in pajamas and you're in Auschwitz, you don't go, told you they were going to round us up.
Right?
Congratulations. Get in the shower. It doesn't
Right?
matter.
Yeah.
So that's another thing is to realize like, I told you so. It might feel good in a moment of moral superiority. Doesn't mean anything. It's vote
No.
yourself in, shoot yourself out. And if I have one talent, it is completely derailing a conversation and not realizing it happened until after. So
I do the
to
same
go
stuff.
back to the nose gauze, what happened after that? You're the metal things come
Oh,
up. I know I do this sometimes. Well, normally I don't give a shit. I'm like, yeah, let's just let it ride. But this is an important topic, and this is take note, everyone watching. This is the 1 in 100 times I will actually go back to the topic. I normally don't care. I'm like, let's just go off and let's keep screaming about trannies. I don't care. What happened next?
it's well, you work on saving the ones you can. You can't save them all. We do a lot of good work in that town. We've gotten into some of the brothels. We've been a lot of help to a lot of the girls, but is there still a brothel problem in that town? And are girls still trapped in sex slavery in that town? Yes, they are. And it's a rough go. The answer uniformly, walking out of this brothel work and into 2020, and now walking out, 3 years of 2020, the answer in my book is always to stand up. The guy who helped us establish our Bangkok office was a Thai man. And when I got there in fall of 2013, he said, "Hey, I hired you as secretary." And I said, "Oh, that's great. The less I have to do myself, so much the better, because I have an overwhelming amount of stuff to do." And he goes, "And an asset." And I said, "What? I like an Intel asset, or like she's going to be an asset to the team, like asset?" He goes, "The former." And I'm like, in my brain, Tommy, I was like, "Oh, all the Navy SEALs are like 250 pounds and 6'7", and the Thai secretaries are like 5 foot nothing and like 90. Like, how is she going to be like an intelligence asset and a secretary all in one? I'm so confused." And he goes, "I'm just going to let her tell you herself." And I'm like, "Okay, fine." A few days later, this woman, 17 maybe at the time, walks into my office and she said, "Hey, I got your printer talking to your computer." And I'm like, "Oh, praise God, thank you for that." And then she didn't leave. She's just sitting there. She's rearranging the tchotchkes on my desk. And I can tell. I mean, as a podcaster who interviews people, you can tell when somebody's got something they want to unload, right? Something they want to say. So I just stayed silent and looked at her. And she said, "So I'm the product of what happens when an Australian man moves to Thailand and marries a Thai woman. My dad's Australian, my mom's Thai. That's why I speak fluent English and Thai. But he was a mean drunk and he would beat her up and wail on her all the time. And one day when I was 12 years old, he was beating her up and I just wanted some air and some space. So I left our Quonset hut in rural Thailand where they lived in one, straw shack or whatever. And she's like, "I walked down the dirt road and I sat on a bus bench about a mile down the road just to get some air." And pretty soon, a pickup truck full of young, teenage, muscular guys hopped out of the truck and screeched to a stop. The men hopped out. They wrestled her to the ground, shoved a needle in her arm that had some sort of a narcotic agent in it. And when she woke up, she was in a sex slave trading camp on the Thailand-Burma border, which is
Jeez.
now Myanmar, where brothel owners the world over, from Japan, from Switzerland, Australia, America, would come to look at the girls and pick the ones they wanted and go home to their brothels with the girls. And one day, she said the guards got bored and they lined up all the girls and they just started executing them. They started going down the row, laying guns to temples and pulling the trigger. And the next part, she said, so with such derision and such condescension and hate and venom in her voice. And she's like, and every time they'd get to a new girl, she'd drop to her knees and beg for her life to no avail. And she was pissed at these girls who would beg. And then she stopped talking. And I was just, I mean, I'd been doing legal work 5 minutes earlier when she walked into my office. I was just sitting there dumbstruck. I could barely find my tongue. And so I looked at her and I said, and what did you do when the guards got to you? And she looked directly at me and she said, I stood up and I reached out my hand and I said, give me your damn gun. Actually, give me your fucking gun, is what she said. I don't want to live like this anymore. I'll shoot myself. And the owner of the camp was walking around, overheard what she said to the guards, and said, you follow me, takes her into his Quonset hut office, sits her down in the guest chair opposite him on the desk, and looks at her and he goes, I've been doing this for decades. And everybody but everybody will, in the final analysis, no matter how much of a tough guy poser they think they are, they will beg for their life in the final moments. And you didn't. And I want to know why. And this girl, for the second time in as many minutes, says to me, so I stood up and I leaned over his desk and I said, I know you have a gun in one of those drawers. Hand it over. I'll tell you again what I said outside. I'm not living like this anymore. I'll shoot myself right now. And the guy leaned back in his chair, rocked back and forth a couple times, and he goes, get out of here. You're free to go. And she walked out alive. So she gets done telling me the story. And she stands up, and I'm still just like mouth hanging on the floor, And she walks over to the door that went out into the hallway in this high rise I was in Bangkok. And as she gets to the door, she looks back to grab the door and shut it after her. And I said, Jenny? And she goes, yeah. And I said, you did good. And she said, what? And I said, you did good. You survived a place nobody survives. You did really, really well. And don't forget it. And you're going to continue to do good things with your life. And that girl shot me 1,000 megawatt smile. Like, I don't think she had ever been told by anybody, not her parents, not anybody in her life up until that point, that she had ever done anything good or right or remotely not wrong. And very, very validated in the moment. She trotted out of my office like she was tap dancing across clouds. And she was a great person. And then I waited for her to leave fully. And then I walked down the hallway and vomited in the girls' room. And I thought about it on the way home and I was like, God, why do you have me? Like, why did I go here? Like, there was a coup d'etat happening. There was tanks on the streets, the jihadi bombers. We got my secretary was sex trafficked or so. I mean, it's just like, what is this soccer mom from Orange County actually doing here? I know I signed up for this, but what the hell? And in hindsight, I realized on the flight home that she had taught me a very, very, very valuable lesson, which is when you are looking at a locked and loaded gun full of hate and anger and tyranny and injustice that is ready to do you in, you stand up. You don't ever take a knee to tyranny because it just keeps coming. You stand up. And maybe you win. Maybe you win like she did, and maybe you don't. But at least you freaking die on your feet and you have your own soul and your own morality in check and in hand. And I think it is better to die on your feet than to ever bow to tyranny. And I learned that, and I learned it from a 17-year-old who had been sex trafficked and who was my secretary. And then 2020 hit, and people went around and they said, my husband had no choice. He had to get the job. And I said, really? Did they have a gun to his head, like an actual gun? She's like, well, I mean, he was going to be fired, and we would have lost our house, and we would have had to live in our car. Never forget you have a choice. You always have a choice, even if that choice is simply in how you die, whether you go down with dignity or not. But we are still in America. A mandate is not a gun. People need to remember that, because so long as they act as if it is a gun, soon it will be an actual gun to your head and not just an unconstitutional mandate that doesn't have the force of law, and which would have already been vanquished into the dark of night if everybody had just stood up and done what Jenny did and said, to hell with you, we're not doing this. So that is really the lesson that one of the many lessons I learned the hard way from somebody else in Asia, and that I have sought to convey in the book, because I think the time is now. I think people can stand to hear this every day of their lives. Courage is contagious. It is the answer to defeating tyranny. It has always been the answer to defeating tyranny. And when in doubt, just stand up. That's why I named my book that.
Jesus. Well, I don't think we can top that. So
Probably not in an hour.
I think we should maybe wrap this up. That was
Probably.
God.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot we can learn from people.
Yeah, it's so I guess guys go into the description, please grab the book, follow her on Twitter. But again, so just really hit it home. What can someone right now, they're listening, they're all amped up.
Yeah.
What could what should they just Google local sex trafficking awareness? What should they, if they just,
Yeah.
you probably got them primed for like 60 seconds. What could you
Yeah,
get
I
them to
know.
do?
I mean, well, there's a number of things. I have committed to myself that this next year, I'm not going to just continue to fight to keep the country open. I want to get back in the human trafficking fight. If you want to have somebody come and in a persuasive manner, that's, I can adjust how much, I can talk to junior highs about sex trafficking in a way that's age appropriate, and I can talk to senior citizens at a Catholic church and everything in between. But hold a fundraiser for somebody like me. If you don't want to do that, invite somebody to come speak at your church or your school or your community group or your living room to get people this kind of data. And then we can say, hey, you want to educate your teenage daughter? I'm going to have an ebook. If you want to do an online program, this group has a great online program that can teach your kids the warning signs. You want to get involved with a local group? Let's Google them up right now. These 3 look like they're good contenders. Go talk to all of them, and whoever lights your fire the most and blows your hair back, start volunteering, do their taxes, do their graphics, do their internet, do their mailings when they send out their flyers for their annual gala. Like, go lick stamps for them. Like, it doesn't have to be roll into Asia guns blazing and take out a brothel. It can just be on the back end supporting them, like we talked about at the beginning of the hour. But get involved. Don't have this be a Top Gun feel good movie where you're like, yeah, that was amazing, and then you go home and you forget about it. Like, take the momentum and the desire to learn more and do something, and learn more and do something. One of the things I do, I have a nonprofit. It's dedicated to fighting for freedom all over the world, both here for our children, keeping the unconstitutional mandates away from us, and as well across the seas for sex slavery and whatnot and everything in between. It's freedomfighternation.org. Again, that's freedomfighternation.org.
In the description.
You can go there. You can learn what I've done there. My website is my name, leighdundas.com. I talk about it there. You can reach out to me through those websites and send me an email.
But hold on. So freedomfighternation.org, and then the website is
leighdundas.com. Yeah. And the book is for sale there. Again, one of the ways you can learn about it is to read about it with a book. You're supporting me when you buy the book. I didn't go to one of those mainstream publishers. My mother-in-law owns printing presses, and God bless her soul, she goes, I'll just do it at my cost, and all the rest of the money from the sale of your book you can actually use to go fight the good fight. So when you're buying my book, I'm not getting 30 cents and the other 20 odd dollars are going to the publisher. I'm taking that money and I'm rolling it back into the fight. But the main thing is to take action. I cannot stress enough, you are the heroes you've been waiting for. At the beginning of 2020, I was looking around and I was waiting for Del Bigtree and Bobby Kennedy and Trump, the White Knight. There ain't no White Knight coming. Nobody's coming. You're the White Knight, and you can absolutely make a difference. All you have to do is start.
And would you be okay with me putting your email in the description if people want to just email you?
Absolutely. I'm I'm a little backlogged on my email, but I have it on my calendar to do a week of catching up on my email the second week of September. So if you send me one right now, wait until the second week of September and I may get back to you a little bit delayed. But if you want to hold a fundraiser or a human trafficking awareness night at your school, at your church, I would love to come to your town and do that. My email is my first name, Leigh
Okay.
dot, so there's a period after my name, ESQ, which is short for Esquire, which is what lawyers
Okay.
are, at gmail.com. So again, the first name, Leigh.esq@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to stay in touch, there's a mailing list on my websites you can sign up for, and you can text the word freedom. Again, the word freedom to 53445. And if you text the word freedom to 53445, you may get a link to my book. You may also get another link. I can't remember what the auto response is right now, but it drops your cell phone number into a database. So when I'm doing some big new push to keep America free or some big thing on human trafficking, you can get notified through your email or through your cell phone number that way. And that is one of the ways you can stay in touch. And I encourage you to stay in touch. I mean, we need to find each other. This is a largely good world. 80% of the people, I am convinced, are good-hearted souls that may just be a little misguided or unaware or ignorant of the real issues. But once people know more, they do better. As Wilbur Wilberforce said, he was an abolitionist a long time ago, you can choose to do nothing, but you can never again say you did not know. That
Yeah.
is my
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah. You can't. Yeah. Once you know, you can't.
Once you know, it's on you, but you can't unknow. You
You
can't
can't
unring the
reclaim it.
bell.
Yeah. You can't
Right.
reclaim ignorance. Yeah.
Right. You can't go head in the sand. And if you do, that's just you choosing to not do something after somebody opened your eyes. But I am convinced that your audience is a very active one. I think they follow you for a reason. They like to actually do stuff with the stuff they learn. And I would love to meet you wherever you live in America and get your friends acquainted with the ins and outs of human trafficking and how they can keep their preteen and teenagers safe from harm. We didn't cover that this hour, but I do a whole presentation on that. And as well, how you could join the fight in your neighborhood.
That was awesome. I updated the description. I put everything in there. And yeah, thank you so much, Miss Dundas. That was badass.
Oh, I feel the same way, Tommy. I'd love to be on your show again sometime. So
Absolutely.
keep my contact data handy.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. I will. Thank you so much
Sounds
for your
good.
time, guys. Please go in the description. Please go to the websites, do the texting, do the email, buy the book. And yeah, now that you know, you can't unknow. Don't be a bitch. You gotta do something. That's one thing I find. It's just,
Yeah,
maybe just nag them. Hey, don't be a fucking pussy. Do something.
you're right.
Just
Do
a
something.
lot of them are
Exactly.
guys. So you gotta go to the guy and be like, yeah, all right, bitch, do something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
do something, baby. Yeah,
you gotta
man
chip
up.
away at the ego. Yeah. Do something,
I love it.
bitch. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
That's what
agree. Could not
you get.
agree more.
You got to get under their skin. No, I'm not a bitch. Well, we'll do something. There we go.
Then do something to
All
prove
right.
it.
All right.
Exactly. Take
All
care,
right.
my friends
Thank you
and
so
Tommy.
much, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody, take